Hey everybody, welcome back to Cruise Control. I'm your host, Brian Cruz. If it's your first time tuning in ever here, thank you for joining me today for this very special interview. Now, there's a lot going on and a lot riding on this SAG-AFTRA National Presidency, and I'm very happy to sit down with one of the candidates today, Mr. Chuck Slavin. Now Chuck, I have been talking to Chuck for probably the last month and a half for the past, for all this election cycle for full transparency. And I was running for, again, national president at that point. He reached out to me. We connected on a lot of different things: pension, health, bringing back the living wage, also helping actors get more jobs here in the United States and not going overseas. Also, a big thing was about having leadership at the top that actually understood what the working actor was going through. And I feel like we haven't had that for a long time, if ever. And I really connected with that. Now, recently, a bunch of posts came out, and Deadline and, of course, Cruise Stories went wild with it everywhere, guys. And I saw them just like you did. There's a lot of concerns that came with that. And I've been talking about having this conversation with Chuck for a while. We decided this was the time to sit down and talk about it. Now, I will say this that I believe is very important. When it comes to politics in our union, we have always had Republicans and Democrats in here. If we can't work together, we'll never get anywhere. We just won't. We have to work for 160,000 members, and all of them will not always agree on every aspect of every little thing. It's not going to happen. That being said, I was affected by what Chuck said as well. I was, just like a lot of people have been. And that's why I think it's very important to hear from the man himself, one-on-one, sit down and talk to us about it. So I'd like to thank you very much for being here. Mr. Chuck Slavin, thank you for being here on Cruise Control.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you and to anyone who's listening, and also to, communicate ideas and figure out what the future of our union looks like.
I love that.
Thank you.
I love that. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate that. And it's great because I know when things like this happen, people run, but you're not that man from what I've understood all the times I've talked to you. And to have a sit down like this means a lot to the people. It really does. But I think there's people out there that say, who is Chuck? Who is this guy? Who are you, Chuck? Why you for SAG-AFTRA president?
Yeah, I was asked that question. I've been asked that question a couple times. And I think the difference right now and what we need in this union is somebody who represents the rank and file. For far too long, celebrity elites and their handlers have run our union in the back rooms, and they've made backroom deals. They've exchanged favors, and they've manipulated this union in a way where you may have someone run and then someone else takes their seat. I think that's a problem. I think what we need is transparency. We need folks who step up. We need to know who they are. We need to be able to understand what it is that they represent. And for me personally, I believe it's really important. Like I said, the rank and file are represented. We don't really have that. We don't have the rank and file represented. What we have is some folks that are political cronies, are appointed to committees based on political favors. So what I represent is the opposite of that. And I represent reform, I think, which is much needed. And that's why we agreed on a lot of issues when we first spoke, because This union really needs reform right now. We're heading down a very dangerous road when it comes to the obstacles we're facing, whether it's AI, a living wage, 90% of our members cannot earn pension and health. There's so much that is at stake. And so I agree with you. National politics should not be part of the union conversation, except when they intersect, right?
Yes.
So
I
really believe in the core values of our union should be negotiations, administration, timely payment, and organizing. And I think when we veer outside of those things, we run the risk of it's no longer a union and it's more of a political action committee. And we have to be very careful because we do, as you said, we represent Republicans, we represent Democrats, we represent all people almost everywhere in this country. And so we also have to represent some diversity of thought, because in order to get the best policies, in order to reach what it is our objectives are, like my objective right now is putting our members to work.
Yes.
In order to reach that, we need the best and the brightest. We need all minds from everywhere. And sometimes we may disagree on specific policies or specific ideas, but that's why we have representation, because a certain number of members will vote and we will come to a consensus. And there will be times when people don't agree on things. But in order to get the best, we need to be able to have those conversations. And I think sometimes some conversations are touchy, right? So
we're going to have some of those today too. It's going to happen.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, you're never going to please everybody. Like I'm somebody who for a very long time, I've been somebody who's very, I have my own ideas. I have my own focus. But I also I do believe in other ideas. I do believe that people should be able to express ideas, and nothing is finite. If you have a thought or an idea in the flow of discussion, we can say, you know what, maybe I thought a different way when we started this conversation, but at the end of the day, I'm actually coming over to the other side now. You're convincing me that maybe my ideas were stuck in a place that I wasn't enlightened, and now I'm being enlightened, no matter who that is. And I always seek enlightenment.
You should be able to reach out and talk to everybody and hear everybody. I think that's been a big deal for a long time. People are shutting people out. And I am very much independent in a lot of my perspectives and my beliefs. I vote for Republicans, Democrats. I've done that, but I believe in a strong union. And I think a lot of people are worried about our union these days. They are, Chuck. I hear it already across the board on the Facebook messages, everything. People are like, we're losing power. We're losing, again, jobs in the world. We're losing, again, our towns in Los Angeles, Atlanta. Jobs are going overseas now all the time. But let me ask you this. When it comes down to a union, what is your vision? Can we keep this union? Because people think that it's going to be falling apart if you take over. I've heard that from multiple people.
Well, of course. Look, when you can't argue about policy, you start to argue about the person, right?
Yeah.
So when they want to say that the union is going to fall apart if Chuck Slavin becomes president, that is absolutely a farce. I am somebody who comes from a union upbringing. My family was very heavily involved in union politics. I come from Boston. As everyone knows, that's a very strong union city. I fought against right to work when it comes to New Hampshire here. I have been involved very heavily with the board and service. And yes, political opponents are going to tell you anything they want to say because, again, we're in an election. But,
Yes.
Folks want to be elected. If you look to some of the people that are attacking me, it is very questionable whether or not they will be elected. And so, again, you don't see me going at personal attacks on anyone. The only thing that I want to discuss is policy. And so even when I talk about my opponent, I'm looking at policy. I'm looking at the past actions, his own words that may influence his policy. But when it comes to the union, not when it comes to, does he like ice cream? Does he like
It shouldn't be that. Yeah. Does he play Mario Kart on the weekend? It's not about that.
It's about who's going to lead the union with the most strength.
But there was one thing, though, that did come out about the whole Lord of the Rings thing. I know, like, the Hollywood Reporter was reporting on it. People have been going nuts. I'm very much a big person that believes in, like, one strength, one union. We do that all the time. But there's a lot of people that have been hurting these days, too, and it comes down to the jobs. I've got so many friends in LA that say, hey, Brian, like, yeah, I believe in my union. I'm going FICOR now. Or, you know what, I'm just going to do this little independent thing right now because I got to pay my bills. What do you say to those people? Because you went after, of course, Sean Astin about doing Lord of the Rings. What do you say to those people that need to pay the bills and are unfortunately taking other jobs?
Look, I'm a union guy. I think that, across the board, we have to work our union contracts. We can't be working off the card. And I think that we have to do a better job organizing. Folks ask me about that. And my response is it comes from bad contracts. This has been negotiation after negotiation that has been bad contract after bad contract. There's been flaws in the contract. So I think that what we need is stronger contracts and better organizing. Look, we need more set reps. We need more people that are willing to be boots on the ground when it comes to a lot of this stuff and also helping to organize. There should be a facet of our union that is actually actively organizing. I believe that we should be looking for all revenue streams as well. I think the union organized Cameo. There should be a conversation about potentially organizing OnlyFans. The union should also look into specialized patients, right? A lot of our members are doing the specialized patient work. They're working with doctors and nurses, and they're basically going out and they're being recorded so that they help the doctors and nurses later with their patients. That should come under some type of a union contract.
There's the verticals too. The verticals are a big thing right now.
Big one. That's a big one, and I'm learning more and more every day about the verticals. The verticals have to be organized. Student films. If you go work a student film and you're making $25 for the day, well, $2 should go into pension and health, or some amount that will then make you closer to qualifying. How many members miss their pension and health sometimes by $25?
And where's that money go?
Exactly, becomes breakage. And that's a problem because these earning gaps are too much. And specifically in locals outside of Los Angeles where split earnings they really harm a member because once you get into split earnings, you're working on a TV show that may be AFTRA, you're working on something that's SAG-AFTRA. Now you've been putting money into an after pension you'll never see in your lifetime. So This is something that I think really needs conversations.
That's a big point. I agree with you, Chuck, because on set, like working as like a stand-in, like I just say rehearsal actor, I like saying that more, but as a stand-in, I just worked on Nobody Wants This, and it was initially going to be SAG. It said SAG, and then they switched it to AFTRA on us, and it's like now people are splitting. That's a big deal out here. People are worried about getting their pension credits, and when there's limited jobs, which has been happening more and more, of course, we do have the new contracts and the new tax incentives here in California. They're saying, I don't know if I believe this number yet, but 46,000 extra background jobs are supposed to be coming. We'll see. We'll see. But beyond that, look at Atlanta, look at Florida, look at Chicago, New York. People are not getting these jobs. It's less episode counts, less days, and it's higher and higher number count just to get your days in, just to get your health insurance, just to get your pension. Like, how can we actually do? What can you do to bring those jobs back here to the United States, or maybe even like to stop the Kevin Feige's from going all over to the UK?
Yeah. That's something that I really think we need to leave all options on the table, right? A lot of people don't want to talk about tariffs. But at the same time, you look at a place like Atlanta that just lost Marvel Studios.
So many jobs.
So many jobs. Marvel Studios is now going to England. So that was a 30% tax incentive that was in Atlanta, and that still lost the studios. So for me, I really believe all options are on the table, and conversations need to be had when it comes to tariffs, when it comes to the incentives. Obviously, there should be some type of federal incentive. But again, in some of these situations where studios are just picking up and leaving American union workers, we have to get those jobs back. Our members need all revenue streams. Our members need all opportunities that they can get, because as we know, this is a very tough, brutal industry. And they also need the ability to earn a living wage, pension, and health. Yes. And those are something that I want to laser focus in the first term. And as far as my running mate, Peter Antico, he's come up with some great ideas. He wants the California tax incentive to count on above the line, right? He wants great. $320 million earmarked for independent film. Very early in this campaign, I came out with an email to every single member of California because I was concerned that they are having residuals count against them when it comes to unemployment assistance. I understand that in some cases that may help unemployment assistance, but by and large, who do you know that gets residuals over 50 cents at the moment? I mean,
it's
there's
a lot less people. Yeah. I love that idea though too, because I mean that residual money should not be counted towards that unemployment. It's just that job's been done.
And I don't mean to cut you off, Brian, but look at the reverse too, right? Residuals will count against you when it comes to unemployment, but they won't count for you if you're a senior performer trying to earn health care. So we have an issue here that seems for some reason to be out of both sides of our mouths, right? They should count for those seniors, and those seniors should be able to use their residuals to count towards healthcare. I think that's one that, immediately I know that myself and my running mate, Peter Antico, would lean heavily on the trustees to get that accomplished, because they need to be back on that healthcare, using their residuals to count. Those are the people that built that plan. They should not be excluded.
Not to cut you off either, but why do you think that we are still dealing with this like 12 years after this merger? Like, why are we still dealing with pension and health? Why is it getting harder? Do you see anything behind the closed doors that could actually change that, like in that first term?
Yeah, I think we got to roll up our sleeves and start taking this very seriously. I think, unfortunately, a lot of elected officials for a long time, they get elected and then they don't govern, right? They get in and they wait for a press release that they can put their name on. And don't get me wrong, I think the press releases are important. People should know what our union is doing. But our union needs to do more and more, and they need to push for things. I think for far too long we've been on defense. We've got to be on offense. That's a big one. That's a big one for me. Let's find the best and the brightest across the country. I don't know if you've ever read A Team of Rivals, but there are people right now that are probably my political rival that if and when elected, I will bring them in to ensure that the members have the best voices possible speaking for them. Because
I love that you say that.
The union.
I mean, that's a big worry too, because people are, so it's like worried about divisiveness these days. It's a big deal. Everyone's like, we don't want to work together. There's this big party line and that's it. And if you're on this side, I hate you. If you're on this side, I hate you. It's been blowing up our country, blowing up our world. And honestly, it's been blowing up our union. We've had Unite for Strength, membership first. Now we have the coalition. Independent is almost tough. It's almost impossible. You're running as an independent. How does that make you feel? How's that campaign going? Because people say, I know, I hear it all the time. You're independent. There's no chance you can win. How's it going?
Yeah, look, I'll embrace it. I'm an underdog. I get it. I have been involved in union politics for over 10 years. I know these political parties. I know the members of those political parties. I understand that. And I think that to the credit of this campaign, we have a small group of a team that is helping assist in this campaign, and they are doing phenomenal. I mean, the fact of the matter is if you look at the last, aside from deadline, if you look, well, even deadline, if you look at the last 3 articles prior to that, I have fair coverage. That is next to impossible as an independent candidate.
It wasn't happening before
at all. No. Look, the fact that they even put me in most of these articles, just wrote my name, I felt like a win, right? Because now they're at least talking about an independent candidate. They're talking about somebody. But again, I was involved in Matthew Modine's campaign. I was involved in Maya Dunbar's campaign. I know the way this works. And, the machine comes against you. It's very hard. But I have to tell you, I think that this is that moment where we put ourselves on the gears of the machine, and when we say we're not going to take it anymore. This is enough. Enough is enough. And if enough of us in this grassroots campaign can get out and push this vote, I think we're going to have a real shift on our hands, because ultimately I think members are starting to resonate with the rank and file campaign that we're running. I'm not a celebrity. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth.
Nope.
I don't have a famous last name. And as you can see from Deadline, they don't even like, my social media. So I'm running against the machine, and I am willing to do that.
You are running against the machine. Let's get into that, because I know a lot of people are probably here to hear about that too. Find your perspective about all those comments you made on Facebook. They popped up over there on, of course, Crew Stories, and that's a pretty big page, like 100,000 people. Enough that actually Deadline picked it up, and then Deadline started running with it. I just want to read them out loud, because I feel like it's important that people can hear about it, then you can address it, and we just dive into it and get it all out there. You good with that?
I'm fine with it. Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, prior to you, as you pull it up, I actually was a fan of Crew Stories. I was a fan. I liked Crew Stories. I was a member of their Facebook group.
I'm part of it too.
I followed on Instagram. And then all of a sudden I woke up one day, Deadline article comes out, and they blocked me from even being able to defend myself. So
really?
It goes to what you're saying about censorship. Even my opponent has blocked me on social media. So it's very interesting the way that the other side believes in democracy and freedom of speech. They think that they just block you, and then no one sees you, and now you've been given somehow freedom of speech. It's not the case.
I just don't understand why we can't just have a conversation, debates. The thing is, an actors union, I've been saying this multiple times, an actors union, actors like to talk. It's a whole thing. So why are not actors debating? That doesn't make any sense to me. I know you try to do a debate as well, and that has kind of been shut down. But I don't even understand why it's not built into our guidelines to have that for the people, to have full transparency, to actually have those conversations, see who's running. I got friends that call me up and have no idea. They have no idea who's in the ballot, who people are. And it's unfortunate that we don't have more resources for those debates. I would love to see one. We could have it right here on Cruise Control. I'd be all about it, I'd be down.
Yeah.
We should make it happen.
I mean, that's something that Peter and myself pushed for right off the beginning of this campaign, is that we need to have either a town hall, we need to have debates or town halls, or we also need to meet the candidates night. I think members need to be enlightened by who they're going to vote for, and they need to be able to discuss issues with them. Right now, you cannot discuss any issues with the other side. You'll be lucky if they put out a video that you can click on. With us and myself, if you need to reach me and you're a SAG-AFTRA member, my name, my phone number, my email is all in the voter guide. You can call me. You can ask me questions. It's actually one on a personal level that kind of, I'm not going to say it upsets me, but it's a little interesting that folks are willing to go online and write all these things, the typewriter tough guys and the internet trolls. And again, I'm a big fan of, social media and the fun you can have on it. But, my name and phone number is there. If you think something about me, or if you want to discuss something with me, you can call me, you can email me, and we can talk about anything that's out there. So when we talk about tweets or Facebook posts from 6 months ago, I don't believe I'm finite on anything. I'm somebody who I want to be enlightened. I want to have discussions. And again, I didn't go through and scrub my Facebook page so that no one could see who I was or discuss anything with me. Everything is there. I have no one blocked on my Facebook page. I have no tweets deleted. So everyone can go and see whatever they want, and we can have a conversation about anything. So
let's get into it.
I'm not nervous about that at all. So
I appreciate that you did. You haven't done that. Some people will do that. I mean, especially like when it becomes like more like politics, like what do I get rid of? And then there's like, no, just leave it out there. Whatever you did is who you are. But here we go. Here we go. So messages, okay, from in March of 2024, the first American citizen on U.S. soil to get eaten Dahmer style by an illegal immigrant. That one came out. You also had, here's a thought on future pandemic prevention, evacuate China's Wuhan lab, and then send in one ballistic missile. I like to see ICE. This is one that people have been hitting me up about a lot. I like to see ICE a lot on these deportations done by summer. There'll be a lot less burning of our cities by liberals that way, and seeking reparations, cross the border, and come back. Now these are again, for a lot of the, you talk about bringing people together. Now, New York and Los Angeles are very liberal hubs. They just are. And a lot of actors are there. So they're very concerned about this. But you sat down with me to talk about this. So I first want to ask you, like, you know that the election's like a couple weeks in already. People have been voting. People have been actually talking about this. Why sit down with me now to actually talk about this? Then we're going to get into it some more.
well, yeah, I honestly, like, I wanted to talk to you regardless, and I think when you called me the other day, I was like, yeah, this is the perfect time. Let's sit down and talk. I haven't shied away from any interviews, anybody who's called me or anything like that, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it was just like a timing thing for us. I don't think there's no calculation here. I mean, I haven't been given any questions in advance, and if you sent them to me, I didn't see them. So again, I'm just responding to that sort of a point, so the viewers at home understand. You know, I want
which
to
we should.
talk about these things, right?
Yeah. So are you surprised by Deadline posting this, though? Were you surprised by that? What was your initial reaction when you saw that? Of course, you said the whole Cruz story thing. You tried to respond. They didn't respond back to you. But it happens in Deadline. And you were saying they were doing great press, and it comes out of nowhere. Were you kind of sideswiped? Were you surprised?
You know, nothing in the media actually really surprises me. I can't say that I was surprised by the article at all because, again, I didn't go through and scrub my Facebook page. So I figured, eventually.
Did you expect this to happen, maybe?
No, I wouldn't say I expected it to happen. I didn't think I was it was that important to put out there. But obviously, there's some folks, some opposition that wanted to get that out there. And again, if you read the tweets and the posts with a political satire mindset, then I think you see the satire in the posts, right? Or if you read it in a way that you look at it for, which person or which entity is he going against, for the most part, there's no ethnicity, no race in those tweets. And I grew up in a multicultural family. I had a multi-ethnic family. My sister is also LGBTQ. I love my family. I think in all of these things, we have to handle these situations with compassion. Some of the timing of those, again, 6 months ago, we can look at what was happening in the world 6 months ago, right? To sort of get the understanding. But it's not a direction that I believe that SAG-AFTRA needs to be weighing in on, because again, I believe we need to go back to the core functions of our union. And look, a comedian, an improviser, somebody who's doing political satire, they should not be held from the highest levels of our union because they're involved in entertainment, or that they've made some tweets in the past. Again, our problem right now is a lot of people will preach diversity, and they'll say it is so important to have diversity. But yet, in the other hand, they will say that diversity of thought is dangerous. And so we have to be able to discuss things. And I think that that's one lesson that I'm taking from this, is the ability to actually, have conversations about diverse thought. And again, be enlightened that maybe there was a time when myself, someone else posted or said something. Let's have a conversation today and discuss what that was and where the mindset was. And is that person that way? Because I don't believe that that's the situation in any of that.
Well, that being said, is there any regret behind this at all about what you said? Do you have any regret to the members at all? Or do you feel like it was totally fine? Like, what were your mindset at that time when you were posting it and now looking back at it based off how membership are responding to you?
Yeah, again, I believe that, having myself out there, and having no malice towards anyone, political satire. Some folks haven't probably, they read it a little more sensitive than what was written, and I understand that. I feel deeply compassionate for those folks because it's not something they probably want to read. However, again, private page and made public now. by the media. So do I believe that I probably should go out and buy myself a little diary and write more of my stuff in the diary? Probably. But again, comedy, some of this stuff, there was no intention of harming anyone in these posts. It wasn't as if it was some rager on how I'm going to beat people up or something. This was all political satire. And so anybody that doesn't see it that way, you have to ask if they have a political motive to not see it that way. And I think in the most part, most of these people do.
Is this something normally you've done though before, or are they just like select situations that they pulled out? Because I haven't gone back to see, but these are the 4 that people have been blasting everywhere, and it came from Cruise Stories, of course. Is this a normal thing, or is it not? This happened these times at that political moment in time.
I am somebody. First of all, I've done some stand-up, and I've worked on some jokes. And again, probably now looking back, Facebook is not the place to be to expect someone to understand the jokes. So. Is it something that I've done? Again, I'm not hiding anything in my past. People can go back and scrub through whatever they want, look for whatever they want in my past. It's fine with me. I think, but certainly, there's a life lesson here of being more thoughtful in what we put on social media. I think, my sons know that, and now I should know that as well. So, I think that's just the times we live in, right?
It's very tough times.
Yeah. That any politician in the future now is going, or anybody running for office in the future is going to have their entire social media scrubbed and looked through and things found on there. So again, I don't, it's weird, right? Because when someone asks if you regret something, there's no regret there because it's a learning experience, So I believe I have made myself through a learning experience here, and I will do better in the future when it comes to that type of stuff.
Okay, that's great to hear, because again, there's I think about the biggest hubs, like I said, there's 160,000 members, of course, across the board. So if you're saying, hey, we got to all work together, you can see why people maybe have been kind of upset or reluctant based off these, and you probably knew it was going to happen. But what do you say to New York, Los Angeles? There's people that have voted for you that are still so upset. They're posting things everywhere. Is there anything you can actually say to get these people to understand, hey guys, I'm the person of the people. What can you say to them to actually change their minds? Is there anything you can? Because some people are saying they're regretting voting for you because of these. Is there anything in your mind you can say?
Yeah, I would say hold the line, because again, I'm transparent. I have been transparent. All my record, everything I've done or said is on the line, and it's online actually. So anybody can, go forward. And I'm personally not going to invalidate someone or invalidate someone's feelings. If somebody has some type of a feeling or a position, I believe they need to be heard from. So obviously, again, my phone number, my email is out there. Anybody can reach out and talk to me about anything. And if there's something that I've said or done, whether it be this or anything else, I'm open to discuss things. And I think that that's what you need from a leader. You need someone willing to be able to actually talk and speak to people about what's happening. So,
that was one thing that came to you. It's nice to have someone that actually wants to take this as a job. And a lot of people don't want to take his job. It's you show up, you do some press conferences, you walk away. And we need to have someone to do this 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and be involved. Is that the kind of president that you could be for the union?
Oh my God. Anybody who knows me knows that this union has taken so much time and energy from me as far as how much passion I have for it. There are folks in San Diego that go, how are you awake at 4 a.m. to call me up so that it's 1 a.m. here, and and I'm discussing issues. I mean, I really care about this union. It's something that's been embedded in me at a young age, being a blue blood from Boston. I think that the union is the most powerful thing on the planet, right? The ability to work for wages and working conditions and fight for a fair living wage. Those are things that every country in the world needs, and everybody needs a union. And so for me, I think it's really important to push forward in a way that we are building the strongest union possible. And again, that's going to come from every member being willing to roll their sleeves up and work for this thing, because like they say about many things, it's only as good as the last generation was willing to work for. And I think that in this case, we have a lot of people that have been sort of saddened by this union. And I think that we have to push forward in a way that says that we're all going to work together. We're going to make this the greatest union on the planet.
Well, that being said, you were saying about the whole union thing. I want to address that one more time because people are like, it's our union. You say you're a union man. Does it hurt when people say that you're not a union man, that you're going to like tear the union apart? Because I've heard that too. That must be like, what's happening online? Because you seem like you really do care about fighting for unions. And in this world right now, people are saying that we're not going to fight for this union. You're not going to do that. That's got to be hard to balance that online, isn't it?
Well, again, I think that maybe I'd say maybe I'm a little built different. I think that I know that, there's so many voices on the internet sometimes that, they can be, that some of the collective voice can be pushed astray or sort of pushed in a certain direction. I get that. I mean, we see that all the time, right? With political propaganda and such. And so I think that when you hear those folks that think that, something will happen to the union if I am elected, I think that in those instances, again, you're talking about a bunch of people who have been in power for 40 years, some of them. Some of them have been in power for 20 years. And when I say power, I mean leading the direction of this union. So obviously there would be some type of a personal threat to them if someone is running on a reform slate because they have seen the union teeter and teeter and teeter into a place where it's no longer operating in what the founders intended. So obviously, some of those political cronies, some of the people that take seats because some celebrity ran for them, it is the status quo. This is the status quo that has been going on now for far too long. And so that's why one of the messages of my campaign is to reject the status quo. I think we need a leader who is not going to continue the policies of the past that have not worked. We need a leader who is not someone who, again, I understand the popularity contest of an election, but at the same time, we need to make tough decisions. And as a leader in a labor union, there are going to be times when the members are going to have to express their feelings to their leader. Like I said right now, there's no comparison of myself and my opponent. My opponent is not talking directly to the members. The difference is that I'm a rank and file member who needs these contracts to work. I don't have the ability for these contracts not to work in order for me to earn my money. I need the best possible contracts. I need health care. I need pension, and I need a living wage. And in order to get that, I have to go through the process. Like I said, no trust fund, no silver spoon, no family name I can ride on. The fact of the matter is this is all me, and you're getting a transparent candidate when you elect me, and you're getting someone that answers the phone and answers the emails and responds quickly. And again, I'm looking to work with each and every member of this union so that we can face a future that is in peril, but we can overcome it when it comes to AI, when it comes to some of the other...
Big problem. The AI stuff's a big problem. It doesn't even say, it's like simulated performer. Like, why does it not say human actor in there at all? I mean, what is that?
Right. And I believe some of the contracts are starting to go there. But again, I have some issues with some of these contracts where I feel like we were at pivotal moments in history and we may have abandoned some of the direction we were taking. And so, when we look at something like, coercion, compulsion, the fact of the matter is that consent, this whole situation is becoming an issue where our union has fought for things. And in some of these cases, they should have fought a little harder. I was someone who really believed in what the DGA did, which is to get no generative AI to replace any actor. No artificial intelligence will replace any DGA member. I want to take that back. I might have said actor by mistake, but that's because it was a Freudian slip that I wanted to say actors.
Yeah.
Wanted to be actors, that no one would take the place of an actor with generative or artificial intelligence. And again, we have to do some out of the box thinking that I don't think some of the folks on the other side are willing to do. I believe that background performers, if they're scanned, how many background performers? I'm sure you talk to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people. There's a lot of people that were scanned for artificial intelligence, and they were not told, and they were scanned against their will, in essence, because they weren't informed consent. They were not informed that they were going to be scanned and used in a project the way that they may have used them now. And so for that, we need to really start looking at some ways to make our members money. Again, all revenue streams should be on the table. Background maybe should be able to get some royalties and residuals if they're scanned on set, because
that'd be great.
you know,
There
and
are people I know that did that. They're like, we got scanned, and we were like, this just kind of happened. I had people tell me they stood up against it back then. I mean, I was scanned one time, but I was scanned under a principal contract, and that
yeah,
was because I was doubling for Paul Rudd, and that was still the Wild West. I know what I was actually walking into. You know, you walk in
right,
the room with all these cameras, and like, who's to say that they're not going to use that for something else? I don't know.
right,
I don't know,
right.
and that's been a big worry for me and a lot of people.
Right, and the peer pressure of being on that set and saying no, I'm not going to do it. Right,
Yeah,
you get this situation where you got some production assistant, you know, some 19-year-old or whatever who just got the job, and he comes over and he says, "We got to scan everybody," and you're in
yeah,
your mind, you're like, "Well, I don't want to be scanned," but then
yeah.
you're like, "But if you say no, they're going to send me home. I'm not going to make any money."
And then they're
So
not going to
this is
bring me back. You know?
where, and that's when you need your union the most, right?
Yeah.
These are those moments when you need your union the most because you need your union to be fighting against these things. And so that's something that I think, again, in what we are doing, myself and Peter Antico, you will know that when you say your union, you have a union that will fight for you every step of the way, every single day. And I think that that's something that a lot of members right now are losing a little faith in, that whether they call the union and they say, well, I just got some away message, or they email someone and they're on vacation. I think we really,
Residuals, just tracking down residuals sometimes can
yeah,
take forever, like 2 years sometimes for people. You're waiting, you're waiting, you're waiting. Like
yeah,
that. Also, you know, I agree with a lot of that stuff. It's like we need to take care of the people. We need more reps, I think, on set. We don't have enough reps sometimes that are just popping up and taking care of people. And you're right, people are scared. It happens to stand-ins, happens to background. You get scared and you get upset. You're going to upset production. Now central casting is going to fire you, or somebody else is going to fire you, and then you're not going to actually be able to work anymore. And their livelihood's gone. And everybody's
right.
worried about their livelihood right now. Everybody is.
Right. And that's why, again, there's certain things. Look, you know, when it comes to the health plan, you know, I believe that we need like a Medicare group advantage plan, right? When it comes to residuals, tracking residuals, myself and Peter Antico, we've talked heavily about software updates, you know, where we can somehow find a way, blockchain, facial recognition, find actors on the internet. You know, you look up any of these things, any hot button issue, right? Whether it be unclaimed residuals, you look that up, Google that, and find out that the union has over $80 million sitting in a fund, unable to find actors and actresses. And some of those actors and actresses are people like Elvis Presley. I mean, come on,
Really?
everybody knows where Graceland is, right? Everybody
Yeah.
knows where the estate is. So we have some situations where instead of spending money in certain spots, that's why I'm so excited about my running mate, Peter Antico, because if there's anyone on the planet that is going to thumb through the finances and find, you know, 50 cents allocated in a place that it shouldn't be, it is my running mate, Peter Antico. He's like the Doge he will be the Doge of SAG-AFTRA, right? He will go through and find where money is being misplaced. And once we find that, and once we're able to rein that in, I mean, during the pandemic, they spent $30 million in office furniture. I mean, everyone was working
What?
from home. There are situations where the union is spending money absolutely in the wrong places. And I didn't know if
30
you
million on office furniture?
Google that. Google that. You'll love that one. 30 million in office furniture during the pandemic. So that money, you take that money. There's even an article in Deadline where they spent money on car washes. Like somehow SAG-AFTRA staff needed money allocated for their cars to be washed. So the fact of the matter is that when we find that money, there are things like software upgrades that we will be asking for our union to be looking at. Because once we're able to get those software updates, or we're able to get some of this technology incorporated, then we can streamline residuals. Then we can track down these unclaimed funds for performers. Those members should have that money. That is not the union's money. That is unclaimed residuals. Those performers should have that, and the union should exhaust all efforts in finding those members. And maybe that takes partnering with something like IMDb to ensure that we're getting the best possible contact, whether it be their manager or agent, to allocate those funds to those people. And I know there's some legal steps in there, but
There's going
again,
to be legal steps, yes.
tracking those members is an important thing because they made that money. It's
Can we
just
get
like,
more digital stuff too? Maybe. I mean, like even digital residuals, like, you know, the checks go out sometimes, people lose them all the time.
yeah,
Is there a way of
yeah,
doing something like that? I would love that too. And even
yeah.
like the paper ballots seems like, why are we doing paper ballots still too? I mean, if somebody needs it because they can't handle it, but why are we not having something? Do you know why we can't do digital ballots for our actual elected officials, but we can do it for contracts? Is there a reason
Well,
behind that?
I honestly believe that's like an OLMS thing. I think that's Department of Labor. You have to have paper so that they can track down exactly who voted and how, and you got to store those for so long. But what I will say is, you know, it's interesting, right? Because we talk, and a lot of people are trying to put me in whatever camp that they want to. But ultimately, I'm on a lot of social issues, I'm very liberal. And when it comes to certain things with the union, I think there are some situations where we can be a little smarter when it comes to our stuff, which will help things like the environment. When it comes to maybe looking at, our pension plan and divesting from big oil, my running mate has been sounding the alarm about gold for 15 years now, and has now switched over for the last 5 years, sounding the alarm on Bitcoin and having some of the pension backed by these items. And I think that's really important. Again,
I hadn't thought about that.
I really like Peter, and I really like where his mind is at. But at the
Yeah, he seems like he really knows the finances. I was talking to him too. It seems like he really knows the finances.
Oh, which
is important.
He's incredible when it comes to the finances. But again, even stuff like what you're talking about digital, right? We're spending all this money on postcards, right? To go out when it's a contract vote, and all these people have listed their email address, right? So why are we spending money? Why is our carbon footprint 2-3 postcards during a contract negotiation? Our union should rein that in. I mean, we had a president that was very much on green, in making the sets green, doing all these green things with our union. One of them should have been those paper products. Pull those back. If somebody has listed an email address for this union, there's no reason to send them out postcards. I mean, I've done some stuff with the union when it comes to some paperwork stuff. I get an email with the PDF. I get a packet in the mail. And then 3 days later, I get a certified letter with the same packet. Now I've done it 3 times. I mean, where is the carbon footprint on that?
How much does that actually cost, too?
Right. Well, I know the last one I got was $10. So they spent $10 to send me a letter that they emailed me with a PDF, and they also mailed me, So I think some of that we got to rein in for sure. That's one way that we're going to be able to, help the environment and be a good, solid union at the same time. And the more stuff we can do digitally in this future, we should. But again, I'm not losing any eyesight on the past and some of the senior performers that rely on mail or paper residuals and all.
There's still that. There's a lot of them that still need that. There is.
And they should get it. And they should get it for sure. But we shouldn't be allocating that money to send every single individual 3 postcards. That's a problem.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Especially when the votes are like 90% every single time. We don't need to send 3 postcards.
If you could do one thing, accomplish one thing in 2 years as president of SAG-AFTRA, what would that be?
I would be certainly to hold back AI, generative AI. AI is one priority that I have certainly on my mindset. And then also would be that this 90% of our union that is unable to earn a living wage, the poverty level of 15,650, most members don't even earn that. And I think that if I could get that number down where this union is actually, more and more members are working, more and more members have an opportunity, that's something that I would certainly focus on. And putting more money in members' pockets, that's another one, that
matters a lot.
It matters a lot. And again, revenue streams. If any chance to pick up some new revenue streams to ensure that our members are earning money, that's something too. Any which way we can organize new work, organize the verticals, organize some other online, video platforms, organize whatever we can. And of course, there's some stuff too that, I spoke to a former president, Kent McCord, who Secretary Treasurer, who was very much vocal about YouTube back in the day, using unauthorized clips of our members. I think for sure we've got to find a way to block that or to access some of that revenue and ensure that our members are being paid for their performances. So nothing is off the table with me. I think that's a big difference. I'm not looking at anything saying I wouldn't discuss that. I had somebody reach out to me the other day talking about the stunt task force that was very big against members doing the wigging and doing all these other things, paint downs and all of that. And they said, over the last 2 years that has gone away. That task force has sort of vanished into the background. And I said that's something I'd be willing to look at. I'd be willing to look at that and revitalizing some of that stuff. Because again, I really believe in the ability for each and every member to earn money, but not when it's at the cost of other members. I think that's the big difference between me and my opponent. My opponent has made some statements that contradict the union spirit. And so, for me, it's very important that each and every member has the ability to earn a living. Each and every member has to have the ability to earn pension and health care, but not at the expense of other members. And I think that for far too long, that's been something that's been sort of ingrained in our union, just like you talked about what happens to the money that goes into the health plan if it's not used. That's breakage. And when other members of our union become breakage, we have a real problem. And so for me, the spirit of this union is that everybody works together and everyone holds the line and everyone stands together. Nobody's trying to advance, their own opportunistic, whatever it is, motives. And certainly, in these instances, runaway production, big one. We gotta
It's
stop
got to come back.
production. I really want to touch on that one more time.
Will you talk to the leaders about that? All the studio heads and stuff like that? Will you have those kind of meetings if you can? AMPTP?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. That's why I'm saying I wouldn't take anything off the table for that. The more films and projects that are filmed in the U.S., that means more U.S. union workers are working. Yeah. And that's what we need. We need more opportunities for our members. So that's why I said I wouldn't take any of that off the table.
I appreciate that.
The fact of the matter is, whether it's tariffs, whether it's tax incentives, let's discuss this with some of the greatest minds in our union, and let's see where we can go. I think that's the difference. I'm not going to put someone around me because they liked me in the election or they showed me some political favor. In fact, I would probably take some of the people that were the biggest critics against me to balance out any type of cabinet I would put together, because I think that's too important, right? I think that's what we've discussed from the beginning of this conversation.
You and I have had that conversation the whole time. Every time we talk, it's about working together and figuring the best people for the job. That's what it is.
But again, there's so many people that are just too quick to cancel everyone. They just want to cancel so many people, and they don't want to have conversations because in some of these conversations, it's a little too difficult for them. It's a little too difficult. So instead of having that conversation, they just say, "I want to cancel them." It's like some people when they ghost you. It's like, don't ghost me. I'm here. I'm a member of this union. I need to have a conversation with you. You need to discuss some things that maybe you don't want to discuss, but we need to have these conversations because that's how this union will get to better. And I think that's really important.
Only together. We're a labor union at the end of the day. We're not a political party. I always say it to people, we're a labor union. And people will get mad at me too sometimes and say, like, what are you saying, Brian? Like, we have to come together. There's 160,000 of us. This will not be a union. We will not have an opportunity to actually make this profession if we don't do something about this. And it feels like you want to do that. And I wanted to give you this platform because I feel like I want to give everybody a platform. There's members that don't have this opportunity to even get like an inkling of like who the people are they're actually going to vote for. So I'm happy you sat down. I'm happy you're here. I wish I get Sean on here too. I'd love to talk to Sean the same way I'm talking to you. I reached out to you. Sean asked if you're out there, you can sit down and talk to Brian. You can hang out with me, talk to the people, give you the same platform. I think it's important. Again, I'm middle ground, man. I'm behind party doors. I'm about the union, and that's it. And so, like, when it comes down to this, if you have anything else to say to the people, one last message, what would it be?
Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. I think this has been a great, 50 minutes of some good live TV.
I know it's live. It's crazy, right?
It's live. It's live.
I love being live. Live is the best thing.
This is like no previous questions, no nothing. Just get on the camera and go.
Let's just talk.
So I think that's really important. I think, look, for many members of this union, they're hurting right now. Many members don't know where the work is coming. They don't know where the opportunities are coming. They want to advance themselves inside of this union. They want to get work. And for far too long, the status quo has been what's reigned at SAG-AFTRA. It has been situations where there have been issues or policies that have been just too much of a heavy lift for folks that have been in the circles. And I just want to tell each and every member that as a president, there will be no heavy lift. As a president, nothing that comes before me is going to be kiboshed, or nothing that comes before me is going to be situations where I won't look at things and take some type of active approach towards them. And that's why my door is always open, right? I'm only a phone call away. You have my phone number, you have my email, it's available in the voter guide. You can call me and ask me any questions, and nothing is off limits. The fact of the matter is that I rely on these contracts. I am someone who, these contracts have to work because I need to work under them. I cannot go somewhere else to work, and I will not sacrifice myself working non-union or anything else. I'm a union man. And whatever the critics say, they know deep down, maybe it's because I'm a threat to them. Maybe it's because I'm a threat to the establishment. But I will tell you right now that each and every day as president, I will work harder than no other human being for this union. And so tune out the noise, reject the status quo, and vote Slavin Antico. And at the end of the day, just know that your best interests are served under our administration. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be each and every member that's held on the highest level. And I think that's something that we have to be looking at as far as a union. So my message, together we thrive, and we will thrive together.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I appreciate you coming and sitting down and talking to the people, because I think that matters most of all. You're taking time out of your day and you're standing up for people and you're having your conversation and you're having your point made. And I would love to have this with everybody. I would love to have this with everybody, but thank you so much. This is not supposed to be just about one thing. It's about the people. It's about the people getting information and addressing it.
Absolutely, Brian. And to that point, I will just ask, we've been on for 50 minutes. Do we have 10 minutes? Can you go through some of these comments? I've seen them on the screen over here. Did you hit them?
Yes, I got them right here.
Okay, because I would like to answer some of these.
All right.
If you want to be, of the people. So I need to know.
BJ said, is it true that Chuck's argument about Sean's Lord of the Rings involvement is a non-issue because Global Rule 1 wasn't in effect at the time?
Well, first of all, my screen froze for a second. So can you still see me and hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So first of all, I have heard that somehow this is a non-issue. Somehow Global Rule 1 doesn't apply because in 2001, Global Rule 1 was implemented. But let me tell you, there's a couple things. There's a couple factors outside of that, right? So the first one is that he wrote about this in his own book. In his own book, he said, why should I care about a union that doesn't give a rat's ass about me? He wrote, I will work non-union no matter what the implications are. If you read it, I can get the exact quote.
He didn't say rat's ass, though.
He did say rat's ass. He did.
Did he say
You said rat's ass, which is interesting because the basic union thing, right? You put up a rat for anybody that's a scab. So it's an interesting comment.
Well, a lot of people feel like that the union doesn't fight for them, though, too. That's the thing. People feel like that's not standing up for us. But you should still go for it, though. You should still do the jobs if you can. You shouldn't be going non-union.
I understand that, but again, the complexity of the issue, right?
Yeah.
At the time, he was the son of a president, the president of the union. So how does that work? You're saying that the union doesn't give a rat's ass about you, but your mother was the president? This is a little weird to me. And again, if you read later on in the book, so again, I'll give you the pages. Everyone can go look it up. 109.
I'll post them too.
109, 111. 111, he talks about how the union is so hard to work with. Sometimes you got to go other places and work. Sometimes you got to leave and not use union workers. I think that's a problem. Again, we want to talk about the ideologies and the thoughts of certain individuals.
It's got to be fixed.
It's in the book. It's in the book. So again, he was the son of a president, and these are his comments. That's an issue to me. And again, say you take Global Rule 1 off the table, right? You say that as a union member, which again, anyone who's a union person, I mean, I may have an advantage because I'm from Boston and I've hung out with union guys my whole life, and union girls. Again, all of us know you don't work non-union. That's like basic number one. You gotta have that written in a note somewhere that you don't work non-union. No, that's the spirit of
a union. Yeah, that's what a union is.
Right. But even take that away again. You worked on one of the biggest runaway productions of all time. They took 3 of those movies and filmed them in New Zealand. And now
for sandwiches, they said. That's what they made sandwiches. Kate Blanchett said that.
Yeah, and I don't want to stay on this too long, but again, you're now claiming you're going to be the person that's going to fight runaway production, even though you worked on one of the biggest runaway productions. It's just a lot of it does not make sense to me, and I think there's some cognitive dissonance there because again, they want to use this line that Global Rule 1 hadn't been implemented. Well, again, Global Rule 1 was implemented, and then they did reshoots. So at what point did he say, no, I wasn't going to do it? And then you also had 15 actors sue Lionsgate. He wasn't one of them. They sued them over royalties and residuals. He wasn't one of them.
He wasn't one of them.
So again, and if he was, listen, I'll stand corrected. I'll apologize if he was one of those 15. But
I'd like to ask him. I'd like to ask him that too, one-on-one. I'd like to.
Is that he wasn't one of them. So I don't want to. Again, we can. I think.
Yes, that's what I say too. I'd like to have that conversation. Like these things are coming up, and you're saying these. He should respond to this. I would love to hear his response to this as well. I think it's very important. That's why a debate would be good as well.
Right.
I think it'd be great.
Anything they want to ask me about, I'm ready and willing to talk about it. It's real. Again, I need this union to work. That's what we need.
Kobe says all minorities are suffering because the W&W process is designed around a majority rule and to maintain the status quo, which benefits producers, not performers.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think certainly we have a situation where categories and geographical locations, there's people in some categories, singers, dancers, they feel like every negotiation they're kind of left with, what can we get at the very end? And I think that's a major problem. I think we need to do a better, more thorough job with our W&Ws. I think it's one thing to say we have these wonderful W&Ws, but again, anybody knows that if you really want to fix a problem, you need a diagnosis and then a prognosis. So the diagnosis from me is that the W&Ws aren't as great as everyone's saying that they are. And the prognosis is we need better W&Ws because background dancers, singers, stunt performers shouldn't be left to the end of a negotiation when we start discussing some issues that are important to them.
They should be up front. They should be up front. I agree. And then it gets a second thought sometimes. And I hear the process that it takes time. You can approach like 3 or 4 things, but they'll be like, you only get one all the time. But why can't we stand up for that majority and start trying to like really change that whole dynamic? Like we can do it. And there's all these old contracts too that still exist that hurt our performers constantly as well. And maybe we can start getting those out too. I mean, there's like that CW contract that's like, if a producer like signed on for that, they could have another show like 3 years later and keep that same contract. And some of these have stayed for years. And it's like
Listen, I will say, look, you know, again, this is something that I think is really important to mention as well, is that some of our decisions in these negotiations, some of the things, interim agreements, some of this stuff, you know, there's tactical strategery that I think that we have abandoned from the past, the core union organizing, right? When they talked about the video games is a billion-dollar industry, and our members were never told not to play video games, not to buy in-game purchases. I have to say, the Teamsters, if they were striking a beer company, you would never see the Teamsters drinking the beer. So the fact of the matter is that in a lot of the strategy of some of these negotiations, we really need to really have like some house cleaning of how are we going to do these negotiations, right? You know, I think that we need a stronger approach. I really do. I think that we need to reform those as well. There's a lot of reform that needs to be done in this union, and certainly negotiations, W&Ws is one of those things that needs reform.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree. Queen was saying, do they still have pensions? And then BJ answered it, yes, Queen. If you qualify or vested, which we covered that a lot during the show too. Elected officials need to work to help members, not just sit on their asses. I mean, we have to work. We have to work for our members. You're 100%.
Yeah. I think this is the longest I've ever sat on my ass. I'll tell you the truth.
There we go. I scream at a camera. That's what I do. I yell at a camera all day sitting in my butt. That's what I do. But I'm trying to get out there as like you are. Chuck, how will you combat Trump's union busting to include his change-ups with the NLRB?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a great question because most people really have to read what I've written in a lot of different places. You know, and one of which is I have a real disagreement with the Trump administration on AI, right? And so again, with some of these decisions that they're making, I think there has to be some sort of back and forth and working with the administration. We can't just swear off an administration. That's not going to help us. We're a labor union. We need federal funds. There's certain things that we need to advocate for. So we have to be willing to work with both sides. I've done that. In Massachusetts, I've worked with Democrats and Republicans. We have one of the best film tax credits in the country because there's no sunset on it. That is something I feel very accomplished about. I was certainly one of the people that was very vocal on our film tax credit. And I did that through advocacy of both sides of the aisle, not just going through one side of the aisle. Obviously, there were other stakeholders that were involved in that. But you can Google me. You can look stuff up. I mean, I met with the governor. I put him on YouTube, asking him questions, Deval Patrick. So all of that is in the public record, in the public sphere. I was very involved in advancing our film tax credit here. And I think that that's what we need. We need people that are willing to work bipartisan on certain issues. And whether it be a tax on the NLRB, whether it be a tax on free speech, obviously I'm against those things when it comes to situations where we really need bodies that are going to protect union members. We really need the ability to have free speech. Again, it's hard to say that you don't want free speech attacked, and then in some instances attack free speech. So we have to, as a labor union, really organize ourselves in a way that puts us forward facing when it comes to these challenges. And so when it comes to the Trump administration, when it comes to that plus the AI stuff, I've been against that, and I've been vocal. I think that we need in this future, we need a way to ensure that image and likeness is protected, and that when AI or generative AI is used, that if it is using some source material, there has to be a profit in there that will allow the original creator or the original artist to gain some type of value for their work. This idea that AI can just rip through anything and take all the creative ideas of the century, that's dangerous. That's scary, because there's a lot of work and a lot of time that went into some of those things, and we've got to make sure that those artists are being compensated.
That's why I worry about that. I want that No Fakes Act. They were talking about doing that for a long time. There's the idea, of course, taking people's content and putting it, like you're saying, into AI. And I know there was a bill that was going to be proposed for that, but then now there's like some misgivings, like Trump was saying, maybe this is not going to be, it's too much to actually handle. Let them train the AI. So what do you say about that? Because that's something that he was talking about, allowing everybody's copyrighted content to go into the AI.
Yeah, he said, I can't remember the line that he said. But again, as soon as I heard it, I came out and spoke against it, because I believe that this is the future. This is something we have to be cognizant of, and we have to be forward facing on it, and we have to ensure, especially as a labor union, that our members' work is being valued and that our members are being given the money that they are due. Again, you look at the video game company. The video game companies, $50 billion industry, and our members aren't receiving royalties in some situations, or residuals. And again, if you were making on say a game like Grand Theft Auto, if you were making residuals on Grand Theft Auto, would you ever have to work again? It's a $5 million game.
Going forever.
Work again. Right. So these are situations where we need a stronger union pushing back on some of this corporate greed. And I think that in this situation, that's what you're going to get. I mean, all you have to do is look us up, look Pete and myself up, and you're going to see two fighters, and that's what we need for this next term in the union. We need reformers and fighters, and that's what we are. And we're going to do amazing things when given the chance.
I was going to say, in Sillyville, officials said Chuck has been involved with the union for years. He will always respond anytime you need a hand, very quickly. Actor president Sean Astin and Michelle Hurd were told to refuse to debate to keep their damaging voting records from being exposed. I mean, that's an allegation. I haven't heard that. I would like to ask them if that's true. I'd like to ask them if it's true.
I mean, at this point, I think we could speculate anything. I mean, you could speculate that maybe, I have a better beard than Sean Astin. I mean, you could speculate whatever you want. The fact of the matter, though, is that if we do have a town hall, a debate, or however we're going to have to do it, they're going to have to answer to more than just their policy. They're going to have to answer to some of the stuff that they've done. Again, this working off the card, working a runaway production, that needs a real answer, not something I didn't do anything wrong, I didn't break the spirit of the union. Because for many union people, and specifically unionists, you broke the spirit of a union. That's like the core of a union. So we need some follow-up on that, and we certainly need to ask them about some of the voting decisions that they made. I mean, just recently, $15 million advocated to an AFTRA plan that was supposedly, a successful plan, now somehow needs desperately funds. There's questions. You buy a building that costs $50 million, it's valued at $23 million. There's questions. So they voted for these things. So their voting records should come under a little bit of scrutiny. And unfortunately, just like with some of this stuff, a lot of these people aren't reporting on it, and that I think just shows you a little bias, and that's fine. We'll fight against it again. I signed up for this knowing that I was going to have to fight against some machines when it comes to the political engine.
And that new building, and people have been asking for a new building for a long time, and getting those actual stats and finding how much it costs. That's a big complaint for a lot of people I know out there, because they're worried about their money. They're worried about their money,
and also having a majority of staff work from home. You bought a building, and you still have staff that isn't. Many staff are not working more than 2 days a week in the office. That's a problem. That's a problem. You got to put everybody back to work.
And they spend so much on rent too for that building as well. They're spending so much on rent. So when I first heard a building, and a lot of us were like, okay, great. We're not going to actually have to spend all that money on our actual dues money towards rent. We're going to actually have something that we're going to invest in and grow with. But if they're all at home too, that's a problem. And you could have more resources for actors, especially here in Los Angeles. If you have a building, which again, I tried renting out a theater one time just to like show some of my friends. And it was like $1,000, over $1,000 just to use the theater as a union member. I'm like, that seems insane to me.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting too, because again, I think some of the problem, I have this conversation with Peter all the time, my running mate, right? That a lot of the members, they have other jobs, they have other things they're doing, they may be on a TV series, they're learning their lines, they're trying to, stay busy, and they don't really get a lot of time to get involved in the union politics. So sometimes it's hard to express to members what is wrong, some of the things, and some of the timeline where things have happened, right? You voted up a lease till 2032, then you bought a building like a year later, less than a year later, for $50 million, but you extended your lease. So like some of these things, it's like where do we untangle this, right?
Yeah.
And so,
2032 is a long time too for that lease.
correct. And then I see some stuff about Telemundo, so I also want to just add that into this.
Yeah.
You have situations where they say it's one of the greatest contracts for performers that Spanish performers, but yet it's not on par with English performers. So again, there's a lot of this stuff that I really want to tie to metrics. I want to look at metrics. I really believe in that. It's something that Pete has really helped me see clarity on, is that in some of these situations, like for example, if Telemundo is being broadcast and earning the same amount of money as an American counterpart, then they should not be paying their performers less than their American counterpart. So again, I think it's really important that our members are valued and that we're putting
for their time.
Exactly. And that we're putting as much money as possible in members' pockets.
I love that. I mean, other projects are shooting non-union because they had it with SAG-AFTRA, current leadership. There's something, but also it's like the commercial world has gone very non-union. I feel like we gave a lot of that stuff away there too. Can you actually start talking to these people maybe about helping more go union for these commercial worlds? Because I feel like there's so many gone, Chuck. Like there's barely any that are actually going to be union. I worked on one a few weeks ago. I was shocked. I'm like, oh, there's actually a union commercial here in LA. They're all non-union. The big brands too.
Yeah, and that again goes back to where I say we need all options on the table, right? We can't be not taking into account every option when it comes to organizing. We have to be organizing, and in some cases, we may have to be a little more aggressive on the organizing when it comes to commercials. A lot of commercials are going non-union. I see that constantly,
all the time.
And so we have to get aggressive in organizing those. We really have to be more proactive. And if that means taking staff resources, we have to do that. And we have to allocate more to organizing. So again, if people are working from home, take that $50 million and get more set reps. Take that $50 million and upgrade software. They're going to come in the next 6 months, and they're going to say that they're going to need to renovate that building in Los Angeles. And they're going to want more money for that. They're going to tell us eventually, like I know, that a lot of members past COVID haven't paid their dues. It's like 25,000 members haven't paid their dues.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. And that's a lot of dues that go into operating expenses. And so, we touched upon it before. Why aren't they answering questions? They know.
How do we get them back? How do we get these people back, though? How do we get them to pay their dues? What do we do?
Well, that's going to take some real conversations, some real ideas, not being afraid to have some ideas that may not be the norm, take a few wild ideas and figure out, is there a practical approach? I think that's one of the differences between me and my opponent. I'm willing to discuss anything with anyone. And if someone has a great idea, I want to use and utilize that great idea for the betterment of this union. That's something that I think that, again, when you're censoring people, you're losing some of their valuable input, that maybe some topics should not be discussed, but there's other topics that those people may be geniuses in, and we have to bring them in and discuss those topics. So how do we bring them back? I think, first of all, we got to show them that this union is going to reform. That's one thing for sure, that this union is going to be more forward-facing and is going to be more focused on putting members first. And I really believe that.
That's what I want. I want that too. I want members to go first.
Unfair perks for staff, and I think that needs to be reined in as opposed to our members.
Let's see. The Latino SAG-AFTRA community loves Chuck, I see here. Would you support proposed Workplace Psychological Safety Act?
I would need to know a little bit more about it, but I can imagine that it's probably about an abusive and toxic workforce. And I think that we need to ensure that every place that a member works is safe and conducive to their own feelings or their own sensitivity. And so I think that, without reading that, because again, it's probably the first I've heard of it, I think if that's the spirit of what it is, then I think it's a really important one. Because again, people can get stuck at a toxic work environment, and that can really drain on them. And I think we have to be focused a little bit on the mental health of our performers, for sure. I think there's a big mental health crisis in the country right now. that
There
is going unaddressed. And so if something like that can better the environment of our actors, I'd be totally for it. But again, I would have to look at it. I haven't seen it. So.
And Tyrone said, Chuck, how will you fix the health and pension? What's the deal with the merging of SAG and AFTRA and into two pensions? Why is it still two pensions?
Yeah, I know there's some ERISA law, and we put out some statements to conflict what our opponents are trying to say. But certainly, again, I leave nothing off the table. I want to explore every avenue when it comes to pension and health, and how do we ensure that members who have been donating to an AFTRA plan and are going to be now breakage and never see that money, and folks that are coming very shy of earning their pension and health. There's a lot we're going to need to reform in there when it comes to our abilities to do that, and also, putting pressure on the trustees to accomplish these things. And so I don't believe, corporate America. I think there are certain situations where you can find ways to maybe create a new thing that can then bring in some of the older folks while still protecting some of them. But again, we have situations where their residuals aren't even counting for their health care. We have so many things that need to be addressed that we're going to have to bang those up, prioritize, and also ensure that we're meeting those goals. Because again, I have a very aggressive platform with my running mate and a lot of ideas that I want to flush out in this first term and ensure that members are meeting those needs that they have, because I know a lot of members are hurting.
A lot of them hurt. I was told, they can't merge. I've been told that multiple times, but I was heard that you have to actually get a bill passed by Congress for it to actually merge them both together. Would you be a president that would go to Washington and try to make that happen, go on the Senate floor, go on the House floor and propose something?
Absolutely. I think, again, I'm poised. A lot of people are saying, well, you're not here or there. Look, I'm poised to go to Washington. I'm very close to Washington. So, and again, I've been one of those people that will work with both sides. I wouldn't go to Washington and only meet with one side of the aisle. I would go to Washington and meet with both sides to get things accomplished. I think that's a major difference between my opponents. And when it comes to advocating for those things, I think, a lot of times we believe in these, like, what do they call them? Jailhouse lawyers, where people tell you things all the time. And so you just think, oh, that has to be the way that it is. But some of those people, once you cut away some of that noise, you can go find the truth. And once you find the truth, sometimes what you've been told for a long time isn't actually the truth. So am I 100% that they can't be merged? No, I'm not. And I would take some time and energy to explore whether or not that is true, and work through those laws. I mean, that's the problem with something that is very complex like ERISA, is that maybe some folks just think it's too much of a heavy lift. And I've already told you.
You got to do the work. You got to do the work.
I'm ready. I'm ready for the heavy lifts. That's
what we need, somebody to do the work. And that's what I was saying. I said that before when I was around. Like, we just need someone to go in there and do the work and actually try to make it happen. And say it's not going to be easy. You can't do it on the weekends. You got to do it. You got to push for it. Yeah. And I know, and I see Sabrina was saying the people that aren't paying dues can't afford it, while those who can have a cap on that. They have to pay.
Yeah, I think the caps need to be reevaluated as well. I think they haven't changed in a very long time, and that needs to be evaluated. Just like some of the negotiation stuff, cars, $37. I mean, the wear and tear on the car. We got to do a lot of things, and we're going to have to be a lot more tactical and a lot more specialized in focus. And I think that if there's anyone that can do it, it's me. I think I can juggle a lot of things at the same time. And so when it comes to some of these issues, I think that we really need to be bringing our union up to a standard in this future, rather than, saying, oh, well, that can't be done. Oh, this can't be done. I want to hear what can be done. And that's something I'm going to be pushing for each and every day. What can we do and how can we do it?
Love that. Also, Jeff said, why is Fran and Jolie standing down? Well, Jolie's running for local president here in Los Angeles. And Fran was stepping aside. I know, Fran, do you have any insight on that? Why Fran's not running again?
I don't actually know.
I haven't heard.
I don't. If anything, I would only be speculating, and I don't want to do I'll give her due on that.
Yep. I would like her to say something. I think that'd be very important for the union members too. I think she should make some kind of statement or make some kind of speech about it. You served us for two election cycles. Like, it would be nice to see something. I
agree. I think when and if I serve 2 terms, if I were to decide not to run again, the members would hear from me. And again, I'm accessible. So if anyone had any questions, they could just call me directly, text me.
Well, thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it, Chuck. I think this matters a lot. I think we have to get the voices out there of the people, and they can hear you and talk to you and see you. And I think that we actually have to have these conversations. It means a lot. And I think that we need to have more of these. And I would like to see this happen more and more. If you get elected, I'd like to see more and more of these open forum conversations. I also like to see anybody who gets elected have those kind of conversations. I'd love to talk to Sean Astin. That'd be great. I'd love to talk to him the same way. This is not about being partisan. This is about our labor union. That's what it's about. It's about taking care of the people, Chuck, and having your voice, everyone's voice heard.
Yeah, and I support that 100%. I absolutely do. I think that we should have a lot more conversations, and we should have a lot of dialogue. And I've asked Sean directly to have a town hall or a debate with me to talk to the members, to enlighten the members, have a meet the candidates night. Look, I know I just read something that his voting record is not an allegation; it's a fact. Correct, it is a fact. But again, if the union, again, something I'm against. That our union does not have more transparency, then it is sort of an allegation because technically, the union voting records are not made available to the members. That's something that I wholeheartedly believe should be done. The members should see the voting records of their elected officials. And I fought for it at convention. So I think that's really important. So again, in that instance, we're working on some semantics, but it
takes time.
Their voting records should be scrutinized by the members for sure.
Queen said this isn't going to be solved anytime soon. Well, hopefully we can get something done this contract negotiations moving forward. Also this election cycle. I hope that everybody got a lot of information here today from Chuck. Maybe you know him a little bit better than you did before. That's the idea. Because again, he could be our national president. And that means a lot for a lot of people to hear your voice and also put it out to you guys. Sean, if you're out there, I'd love to have the same conversation, guys. Thank you both for your transparency, Carlos said. And I love to see where this goes. So keep us posted. Thank you for sitting down and answering the hard questions. And also, I'll talk to you soon. We'll keep it going, right?
All right.
Good luck with your campaign.
Thanks. Thank you, Brian.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you guys all for being here. Again, I'd like to do some more conversations, more people running for office. Reach out to me. You can find me right here at Cruise Control, guys. Have a great day. Until next, everybody. See ya.